Hello, hello. It's live now. Welcome to all of you who decided to join that completely unexpected, completely unannounced edition of FivexL Live, which we'll hope will become more of the scheduled things going forward. Today I'm joined by my colleagues, Guilherme and Vladimir. Would you guys like to say hello?
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. Thanks, Andrey, for having me, and Vladimir.
Yeah, hello, and it's truly live. So as Andrey
It's
mentioned,
truly
we
live.
are unexpected, so it's alive. Yeah, we're here.
I could
Yeah.
even see one person watching it. So hello to you, whoever you are. We have a comments live, and you could comment there and come talk to us live and ask the questions live. And the question you might have is, what is it all about? And the answer is that trying to build a way to connect with more people, the people we don't know, but the people we'd like to know, and talk more about what we do around AWS, FivexL particular. And talking of that, we could mention that we do go to events quite often, and that's a good opportunity to talk about where people could meet us.
Maybe we
Yeah.
can start introducing ourselves. Huh? People, I think they don't know us, right? But if
Oh,
you tell about yourself, Andrey, a little bit.
what about if we do it differently? What if we talk about each other? For instance, I talk about Vlad.
Okay, yeah.
All right, let's
Do
go for
it.
it. Yeah, why
This
not?
is fun, yeah.
I gonna just talk about Vlad.
Uh,
So here's
let's
Vlad.
see.
He's a CTO at FivexL and one of our senior consultants. Uh, experienced person. One of the people, like one of the very little number of people I know who you can give the project of any complexity and he will get it figured out and done. So he's quite amazing, and that's why I'm so happy to have him on the stream so he could share his ideas and his knowledge. He's been with FivexL pretty much from the start. Like maybe he missed a couple of first months, but that doesn't count. So we could say he's been with us from the start, and was besides that was pleasure working with him. And I give the word to Guilherme to pick
Yes.
someone to talk about.
Of course, I need to talk about you, Andrey. So we've been working together for a couple of months. I'm coming from AWS, but I met Vladimir as a AWS customer, and Vladimir introduced to Andrey. Andrei is a community builder, super knowledgeable person. He knows how to organize his thoughts and present to customers. He's really to the point, and it's always good to hear and to pay attention to the things he wants to bring up to the table. I think it's always good to have him on board. We are still working, starting to work together, right? So I would love to get to know more about your experience, but I know you have like previous experience with pipeline, CI/CD, and you are Andrey writes blog posts. We have some posts available on our website. So yeah, Andre is a great colleague and also a very knowledgeable AWS engineer.
Okay,
Okay,
I think
Vlad,
it's a
your go.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's Guilherme who left, and yeah, it's right. We meet together in one of a project of a 5XL, and then at that moment, Guilherme helped me from another side of AWS. But it was very interesting conversation when we do a well-architected review together. So, and I also noticed that Guilherme is a nice guy who have a lot of knowledge in the AWS field. And if I remember right, he meet more than 1,000 projects in AWS, which startups build. So it's was quite expressed me, and I shared his contacts with Andrey. It's how we meet. So, and I also know Guilherme as a web developer from a long time ago. He comes from a developer field, and when he got introduced to cloud computing and so on and so on. So it's also quite interesting journey there. So let's see how we can discuss things today.
Well done.
Let's
Nice,
not do
huh?
it again next time.
Yeah. It's difficult, right? When you're
No,
talking about
it's not.
yourself, I think it's difficult, right?
Why?
I
You
don't
know
know.
what? You know what I just did? I just Google and find your personal website right
No,
now and try to read as fast as I can.
this is not fair because I didn't have time to research anything. No, not fair, not fair. You're cheating.
I just did it as soon as you talk about
See,
Andrey.
Great.
he had an advantage of going last. He had
Yeah,
time to
yeah,
prepare.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, not fair, not fair.
All right. So
Let's see.
if you are to meet Vlad, if you heard what we said about Vlad, where could you meet him? Is there any events, AWS events in particular, Vlad, that you are tracking and that you're planning to attend?
Yeah, I'm usually at the moment. I usually speak somewhere in Southeast Asia, so Bangkok, Singapore, somewhere there, and I expect to appear somewhere in May in Bangkok and some events. So looking forward for it, and also there's some plans to go to Europe. And in around the June, first half of June, maybe AWS Summit and in Stockholm, that
Yeah.
one. So I'm
Right.
looking forward to it.
Good. Guilherme, any plans?
No, I have no plans for this year, but I think it's worth mentioning that last year, as an AWS employee, I was part of the AWS Summit in Amsterdam. I was on stage with a customer. Unfortunately, due to some agendas, I will not be there this year. I think the summit will be in a month, but I'm
Yes.
super happy of having Andrey there, right, as one of the
Yeah.
speakers. So yeah, can you share
Yeah.
with us what you're going to be talking about?
Yeah, as a community builder, I will be there in the dev launch, talking about elevated access, temporary elevated access, and how you could leverage that to simplify your IAM game. I think we could touch upon that in the end of this talk
Yeah,
or this
why
recording.
not? Why not? Yeah.
And there are a few more events we are tracking. So I am confirmed to speak at AWS Summit Amsterdam. That's 9th of April. I will be there the day before, so I will be the whole day on the 8th of April. It will be Monday. If anyone wants to meet, go for dinner, say hello, just let me know. And if you cannot make it on Monday, let's meet during the event. Then there is an event in Central Asia. There will be a community day in Tashkent where we have CFP submissions from our colleagues, so they might be going there. I don't remember the date on the top of my head, but we hope if they if they approve, then we will tell you next time we record. There will be, as mentioned, AWS Summit in Stockholm. That I believe is 4th of June, and I have CFP open there. So no, I don't have CFP open there. I'm waiting for CFP to open there. And there will be also AWS Community Day Nordics in Copenhagen. I think it's 5th of May-ish or 7th of May. I have CFP open there, so I might be going there. And there is also AWS Summit Madrid, which is closer to home, which is on 5th of June, but it's like next to the Stockholm, so I'm not sure if I will be able to make it. Right. With events covered, should we talk more technical stuff?
I just
As
have
we
one
think,
question. What if somebody that is watching this video now wants one of us to talk in any event? How they can reach us out, or if you are available as a speaker?
I think LinkedIn would be the easiest.
Yeah.
DMs are open. Just DM us on LinkedIn. If you are in the Community Builders program, use Community Builders Slack. If you are in AWS User Group Leaders, I'm also there. You can use Slack again. But I
And
think the LinkedIn is
if
the
someone
easiest.
watch us on YouTube, right, can just drop a comment below. I can read them. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another thing that
there's
maybe
the comments there.
we forgot to mention, that we are in different regions across the globe, right? So
Yes.
Vladimir can also cover Asia, right? Vladimir, which countries would be able to speak?
Any country in Asia and Pacific, so all of them. But everything is closer here.
Cool. Nice.
Okay. I think like you would fly from Thailand to Australia for 6 hours, and Japan is like 8 hours
it's
or
fine.
something.
If someone invite me and pay for everything, so why not?
Why not?
All right.
I could visit
Yeah.
Australia. So
Me too. Huh?
yeah.
Me too. Huh?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Guilherme, where are you?
I'm based in the Netherlands. As I said, I was working for AWS. I was working with customers across the region like Benelux, Baltics, and Nordics. But I'm based in a city close to Rotterdam. So
Right.
I'm available. Germany, Belgium, yeah, any other country. UK also is super close by.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I'm in Canary Islands, Spain, so nothing is close.
Water
You,
is
you,
close.
yeah, well, Africa, but they don't do much AWS events in Africa. So
They do. They do.
they do some, but not a lot,
Yeah.
I would say.
It's a growing market. Huh? It's a growing
Yeah,
Yes.
I
market.
hope
Yeah.
they will do more in the next year. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
growing
I,
Yeah.
market.
I have 2 hour and a half flight to Marrakesh, which is
Hmm.
like and flight to Madrid is 2 hour 40 minutes, I believe, depending on the
Wow.
type of the plane you take, because to Marrakesh it's a turboprop, so it's not going very fast. And to Madrid
Okay.
it's a jet. So
Okay.
yeah, but I'm available most often online because of the kids, kids and the wives. They want you to be home and
Yeah,
help
we
kids
could mention that
with
we
kids.
can go online at any events, right? So it's anywhere, any online events, because we are a remote first company, so we like
Yes.
remote events. Why not?
Yeah. So, but I guess it's enough for us. For the first stream to introduce people, if they want to watch again, those three talking heads, that was enough of us. But we envision those type of programs slashed into a couple of pieces, in a couple of themes, if you like. So one of them is just to talk about the news around us, the new events, blog posts, things that attract our attention. That was that. Then another part is what we call internally AWS Announcement Translated into plain English. And that we're gonna segue into that one now. And there is another one where we would dive deep into some architectural topics. That segment we for now internally call architecting on AWS. So like that's our thinking about what those streams will consist of. That will evolve. So that's our current understanding. So we expect it to evolve depending on demand and the feedback we get. So we start light with some easy discussions. If you like to go more technical, skip first 10 minutes to this point, and there will be the links to the each part. And then if you want to be a real technical, then you go to the end. To the very technical part will be the architecting on AWS. So AWS announcements translated in a plain English. What is it and why are we doing that? Guilherme, do you want to elaborate?
Yeah, of course. Every time AWS announces new things, of course, they want to make it nice and commercial, right? And AWS launches a lot of things throughout the year, but especially around a reInvent, right? So we had a reInvent last December 2023 that they launched a lot of things, right? But usually customers ask us like, okay, I have a lot of new things launched, but how do I use them? Are they applicable to my business? No? How was it before the feature was launched? Then how is it now? Is it new? Is it worth it? Is it cheap? Is it expensive? So a lot of questions come to our way when there's something new, and sometimes the answer is depends, right? That's why we're here, and that's why we are bringing this topic to the table, so we can help you to make your decision based on facts, not based on commercial stuff. I'm not saying anything bad about how AWS advertises stuff, but here we are a bit more practical, right? Or not a bit more, right? We are practical. We have experience. We are bringing experience from the field, and also combined with our experience talking to customers across the globe, right? Because we talk to customers from different regions. So that's why this is our intention here, right? To translate what AWS is saying to plain English, or maybe a more practical approach.
Right. But Vladimir, AWS announces so many things each week. I mean, there are like 20 announcements each week, and during the reInvent, I just stopped to read. It's just too much to comprehend for one person without help. Or you could spend whole day trying to figure it out, each of them.
Yeah, but
if you try, how do we pick one? Because we cannot absorb everything. How do we pick one?
yeah, usually we try to pick up some related to services what we use, because each of our projects usually have a limited amount of services. We doesn't use the whole AWS cloud, and we also focus it on some set of services, especially related to ECS, RDS, Session Manager, and so on. So we pick up a useful one for us, because there's a many. And also for myself, I'm trying to skip some preview thingy, because usually the services are going to change a bit, so I can't use it right now. So if I implement this preview stuff, after it's going to change, and I have to change, and time to time it's available only in one single region, but it's a bit far from my projects. So
Right. And one criteria I would like to add is it something that you're already using now? So for instance, when you read those announcements, there will be some like, okay, that's good to know, right? So something is available on Mumbai. Okay, like if I do something in Mumbai, it's available there, good to know. Or there is announcement like for a service that you use today, but it's additional capabilities that you might utilize someday later. It's like, again, all right, this is useful, but I'm not going to use it right now. And there is stuff that when it's announced, like, okay, I'm doing it now. And I think that's kind of will be the main criteria. If something that's being announced is something like we already started to use right after it was announced, then it's actually a good stuff and it's important and you should know about it. And with this, I'm gonna bring the announcement that we decided to pick for this time.
Just one thing, Andrey, if I may
Yes.
add, one thing that is sometimes announcements are confusing, right? Because AWS
Yes,
has
they are.
similar services, right? Sometimes you have more than one option when you need to achieve a business goal. You have multiple options, and maybe none of them are applicable to you. Maybe all of them will be applicable to you. So you need to know the differences and the nuances between the services. This is another
That's
challenge
right.
that we have to face. Yeah.
That's right. And the thing is that the else have written by the marketing people. I have nothing against marketing people, but they phrase things differently compared to if the technical person would write it.
Yeah, of course.
And I am a technical person reading things written by marketing people, and quite often I don't understand what it entails. And this is exactly the case with this one. So AWS Systems Manager Parameter Store now supports cross-account sharing. How did we live before without this feature? What was the use cases?
Maybe should we start off with what is a parameter store?
Why not?
Maybe Vladimir can explain to us.
For example, yeah, parameter store, it's usually a configuration and secrets also storage as a part of systems manager, and act storage as a parameters. So, and for example, we can store some, I know, some flags, some, some numbers, so like it's whatever we can store. And time to time, people store secrets in there, because AWS parameter store also supports secret string condition and encryption. But it's usually compare, like in AWS, we compare secrets manager and a system manager parameter store. This is usually what you can find online. People compare them together. And the secrets manager, it's usually something more advanced. So, but the parameter store is a simpler version of it with some sort of limitations. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Yeah. But I interrupt you, Andrey. Maybe you can.
No, it's all right. And SSM is also SSM parameter store is something that you would usually use with services like Lambda or ECS, where you need to provide a parameter. Like when you're injecting the environment variable into a container, you could have ARN of SSM parameter, and when ECS boots your container, it will read the parameter from the SSM parameter store and make it available inside the container as an environment variable. So this way, you don't need to hard code your parameters in a task definition, especially your secrets. So they will be stored in a parameter store as encrypted strings and will be decrypted and injected in the container. So that's like I would say that's one of the primary use cases for that as a configuration store for things like Lambda, ECS containers, or AWS uses that to provide you with some information like what the latest version of, for instance, ECS container, ECS optimized IMI is available in your region. You can use a parameter that
This is a good point. Yeah, this is a good point about public. Sorry for interruption. It means AWS is actually utilize the advantage of sharing parameter stores because it's public.
Well, they use them as public, but us as
but they still share it. You know, they share it. They already share it. Yeah, it's public, but functions exist.
So the thing is, like, that if we have a multi-account setup, which I guess you do, at least you would have your dev stage production. And then if you want to share something between them, the SSM might be a good choice. But usually you don't share like going up, right? So you don't, like, if you imagine your dev environment, your stage environment, your production, you don't share like this, like that. You share horizontally. So which means that like you have multiple accounts within your environment. So for instance, you have your dev workloads and your dev telemetry accounts, right? And then in your telemetry, you might have a role that your containers, your adot containers in the workload account would need to assume to ingest the data to Prometheus. I'm actually describing the like real use case that is happening for one of the customers, and then and you define those roles arms in your telemetry account. You need to make them available in your workload account. How you do that? So one thing is to have a parameter, but then you need to synchronize that parameter between accounts somehow. Vladimir actually wrote the Terraform model, which called SSM push-pull, which will basically assume the role, read the parameter in one account, and create a parameter in where you run it, a parameter with a synchronized data. So you could do that. So he was trying to actually address this problem of copying the parameter. And if you have many accounts, then the problem becomes even harder. I would say another good use case, if you have an AWS organization, you might want to know your AWS organizational unit path when you're crafting your IAM policies, so you can use them in conditions. But quite often you cannot look them up from the member accounts because permissions doesn't allow you. And then SSM parameter might be a good way of doing that. Any other type of data that you need to share between accounts, this is where SSM parameters might be useful, but then before you would have to copy it from one place, make it available another place by doing some kind of synchronization, Lambda, Terraform, what have you. But now, on February 22nd, AWS announced that we could stop doing this and we could utilize AWS System Manager parameter store cross-account sharing. And when you read it, you think, wow, I start to do it now. But hold your horses. As usual with AWS, there are limitations that you need to be aware of, and there are things that not always work as you would expect them to work. And this is actually a good example. So first, you cannot share any kind of parameter. The SSM parameters have two tiers. You have like default standard tier, I think it's called. And then you have advanced tiers that allows you to store much more text in it, because the amount of the text you can store on one parameter is in a standard tier is kind of low. So if, for instance, if you need to store a multiple certificates like PEM files in there, they will not fit. You need to go with advanced tier.
4 and 8 kilobytes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one requisite. So you need to use advanced tier, and then they cost more, actually. So the advanced tier cost more. Yes. So Vlad can Google prices and tell us if it's of interest, or you can Google it yourself.
Yeah.
Then
he likes to Google. He likes to Google.
The second part is it needs to be encrypted by the CMK. So you cannot use the Amazon managed KMS key. For obvious reason, because you cannot access the key policy to allow people using key.
In case of you use like as an encrypted parameter, because parameters could be that's a simple string. I guess it could be not a limit. It depends.
But basically any type of security posture software
we will
scream
point
at you if you're not using security string. If you're using plain text, any kind of thing, like even Secrets Hub will tell you why are you doing this?
Can't use it. Yes,
it's super nice what you're saying, Andrey, because when we read the text, okay, the second line says you share advanced tier parameters with other AWS accounts, but it's nice that you're bringing this because it's a practical experience, right? You can read it and say, okay, I will use it, and then you realize you're not using the advanced tier parameter, right?
This is exactly what you get from the experience from using it, and that's what we bring you on this cast. And then there are more.
Yeah, tell me. I want to know more.
Look, so imagine, well, like if any of you tried to copy the snapshot encrypted with CMK between accounts, you know it's no joke task. Whereas you need to write the KMS key policy in a way that it allows another account role to decrypt, encrypt. It's complicated. So that's why actually one of our ways of thinking, which played really well into this, is to have in your organization is to have a KMS account where you would have a default key with a very simple KMS policy that allows encrypt, decrypt, generate data key for all accounts, for all entities within this environment. And then sharing those parameters becomes super easy if you have this type of setup. If not, you would have to work a little bit more. But then you might think, how exactly it is shared? Right? So like we did that. We have a parameter, it's advanced tier, it's encrypted with CMK. We think the K policy is right. We must probably wrong. We will find out hard way that it's wrong. But we think we are ready to share. What do we do? The thing is that it's not a feature of SSM to share it. It's a feature of Resource Access Manager. And that's another thing that this post doesn't tell you. So what you need to do is you need to go to Resource Access Manager, and that's a service that allows you to share resources that doesn't have resource policy capability. Because things like S3 bucket, it has a policy that you could attach to S3 bucket and allow access from another account. SSM parameter, as far as I remember last time I checked, it doesn't have the policy, so you have to use...
it's like an advantage of a secrets manager. A secrets manager have a resource-based policy. In a parameter store, there is no resource-based policy.
Yes, exactly. So you have to create resource share and choose with which account or organizational unit you want to share the parameter. It's very simple, like it really is. There are no caveats in there, but now we done in our source account, the parameter shared, we go to our destination account, the consumer account, where we would like to consume this SSM parameter. We go to SSM parameters, we go to my parameters, we expect to see that parameter there, and it's not there.
You mean in UI? You mean you open an AWS console,
yes.
right?
It's not there.
time to time something is missing from UI in AWS, maybe because it's required time to adjust UI, so features.
Yes, this will confuse you.
Yes, it's true.
And if you're using AWS CLI, you look for them, it will not show you unless you use additional flag to tell you that you're looking for the shared parameter. If you're using Terraform and you're using the data source to read SSM parameter, instead of parameter name, you need to specify the ARN of it.
Yeah, but you know what I expect? With all another shared resources, we can also specify like as owner of resource. But maybe here the API will be a bit updated and adjusted.
I believe that they will improve the UI, so you will be
able
we will
to
see them in UI.
like a owner of resource, like with the
exactly, like
with another resources with share resources as mentioned.
Like because if you share the subnets via RAM, you can see those subnets in your VPC, no problem. You just see it's owned by someone else, and I think that will come. But what our colleagues did here, Alexei, he suggested, I think it was Alexei or Anton, what they suggested is like if you use Terraform, you need to have ARN, and that kind of kills the idea of the shared parameter, right? Because you need to know something in advance in order to use it.
You need to know at least one, right? Because if you know one, then you can just go
so what they do is they look up the resource share. There is a data source for that in RAM, and then from it they can get an owner and they can get ARN of the resource, and then they put it in to the SSM data source in Terraform, and then they're able to read it. So if you go this way, probably you want to create a small module where you just wrap this happening, where then you just pass the name of the SSM parameter, and under the hood your model could find the share using I assume that your share name will be the same as a parameter name. If not, then you will have a little bit harder time. And this is how you can work it out. But so it is a great feature. We're already using it. For instance, for like in our organization setup, we use that to distribute that shared key ID, because like the key ID, like it's very hard to write KMS policies because key ID is always random, so you cannot predict what it's gonna be. So that's why it's kind of useful. Always, if you have telemetry, if you build your images IMIs in one account and like want to consume another account by sharing them.
Whatever is continuously changing. And we also use SSM parameters in case of there is no other ways how to pass configuration, because a lot of resources, they are not support anything. Like they not have predictable names, they not have predictable IDs. So it's a way how to share a configuration. It's what we are discussing here. Sharing a configuration.
Guys, it's great to hear all the hints, but I'm thinking here to myself, and especially those ones who are watching this video live or maybe later, because all the sharing, all this stuff will be needed when you have multiple accounts, right? And maybe one might be thinking now, okay, it's still complex. You know what? I will use just one AWS account for all production workloads. So
for everything.
What's your take on multi-account? Because it comes with a price. You have to pay a price, right? What's your opinion about it?
It brings us to the third part of the program, architecting on AWS, right?
I didn't do this on purpose, right? I was just asking a question.
You're a tricky person, you are.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah.
So, Vlad, what's your take?
So I think we are going to talk about multi-account strategy, like as in general in AWS, or.
But if it starts easy, like you have one account.
Okay. If you have one account, for example, that usually happen in AWS, like as you are, organization owner or developer, you start putting stuff in one account, everything is fine, and reach a production state. Okay, now you have a production account. But when you would like to have a dev, right, you have to develop somewhere and you put it in the same place because there is no other accounts. Who is creating another account? Like, why? I already have account. I'm able to log in, I'm able to deploy things. And when it's come to things like as how I granted permissions to people, for example, who must have access to dev-related stuff, who must access to prod-related stuff, I can write very complex IAM policy. I can do it. Or even Gen AI can help me to write a very complex, interesting policy. But things are changing, and some stage environment appear, and it's the same account, right? And another complex policy. So and also we will probably get at some moment like as different departments or different teams who work on different services, and they all same in the same account with even more complex policies, right?
I already saw some companies using different regions, one account in different regions. So they use like dev in a region, production in another region. But it's important to remember that IAM is a global service, right? It's not regional. So you have a lot of complexities. This topic is very extensive, I think, right? Because when it comes to confidentiality, you have to like keep your data separation of concerns, right? Dev, test, and production data. They need to be separated, right? This is another topic that maybe we need another 30 minutes, right? But this is an important.
You can hear about it in the next videos when we will talk about it.
Yeah, why not?
Tune in. Yeah, we could talk about the data protections.
Yeah. And but what else about a multi-account? What would you like to add, Andrey?
Yeah, I would say like, look, so you could definitely do one account, but if you lose access to that account, and we had those cases where we had clients, well, like I would say our future clients coming to us saying like, we lost access to our account and you have all your business data in there. Like, it's good if you just lost the password on your own, it's possible to recover, no problemo. But if there is something malicious going on, if someone takes over your root credentials, root account user credentials, and he locks you out, you say goodbye to your business. That's how it is.
Yeah, and also we could explain like as why it's happened, because everything is shared. It means everyone in the organization have access to that account, so it's easier.
And that securing stuff becoming is much harder. So like compare that with the you have one account and everyone needs to go there. Data analyst, your accountant, yourself, your developers, your testers. You need to create a role and boundaries between all of them because they are within the same space, like the crowded bus, right? And then imagine that you have your production where no one can go, and then like that's your like taxi. Right? The things are much easier to manage this way. And actually, I learned this week that taxi is crazy expensive in Netherlands. Like
it is super expensive.
Yes, it is super expensive. That's why they ride bicycles there.
Yeah. And I just want to add another thing about multi-accounting strategy is the costs, right? How you control costs over environments.
Yeah.
You can tag stuff, but then it's not that practical.
There are like tons of reasons why you should use multiple accounts. And I think we can dive deeper into that in the next recording. But this time, another thing that comes up when you actually start using multiple accounts is the fact that how people use AWS in general, right? So you created your first account, and usually people just go with the root password, like the root user, your email and the password you put in. Hopefully you do second factor authentication. If you don't, you always should. Make sure you do like those things, like get yourself one of those, the physical keys. Much harder to take an account from you if you have one of those. Then it starts to grow. So for instance, you add another account and like AWS console will scream at you saying, go make IAM user. Stop using your root credentials. Any type of benchmark for AWS you do, like for instance, CIS, Center for Internet Security benchmark for AWS will tell you, don't use your root account. Bad. Create at least IAM users. But then comes the problem. So you have multiple accounts. You will need to create IAM user in every single account, potentially use the
you know what we should to mention about IAM users. Now AWS console also screaming this point too.
Yes, they actually say you're like, why exactly you want to use IAM user? Like, why? If you do this, it's better way, like, use roles. Like, if it's a
Yes,
service,
there's a better ways. Yeah, and
yeah, yeah.
why, Andrey? Why it's a better ways to use roles? Why not static IAM users?
Yeah, so the thing is, like with IAM user, for instance, you're using your IAM user as a developer to access the development production or development environment or production environment. With IAM user, you get a static credentials that are static unless you actively take action to rotate them, that no one does really. And then you just download this key ID and secret key to your computer. You store them as a plain text in your AWS -config. And you know what? Any type of malicious JavaScript that runs out of its sandbox can go and grab that file and run away and, like, do something in your account as you would do it. There are better tools like AWS Vault, for instance, that could store your credentials in a secure enclave if you're running Mac. There is like similar thing on Windows. There is also LeApp. There are many tools, but that are better in this. But the thing is that if you have it's easier not to have things that people can steal from you, and then it's harder for them to steal it because you don't have it. By this, I mean that when you're using the roles, you're getting temporary credentials. So you're getting your key ID, secret key, and then you're getting the third thing, which is a session token, which means it's session, it's temporary, it will be time bound, which means that the attacker will have limited window of opportunity, even if those credentials stolen. They would have to go and repeat that
Yeah,
action
and
again and again and again.
by using role, we can also implement some other conditions inside the trust policy and like involve it and protect it with more different
Right.
layers. So,
And then what
but
some of people been doing is, like, as I mentioned, there is a problem, right? So you have 5 accounts. You don't really want to create users in each account. So they would create a user in one account, and then they would assume role in other accounts using that user. That's called role chaining. Really hard to debug, really hard to build a picture who have access to where, and it's quite easy to misuse. So, like, don't do that. AWS announced something that was used to be called AWS SSO. Now it's called AWS Identity Center, which allows you to bring the third-party identity to AWS and have a single sign-on experience to the AWS console through that. So, for instance, if you're using the Google Workspace, you're using like Okta, you're using the Microsoft AD, then you could use that identity source to sign into AWS. You don't create any static users. You always get temporary credentials. If person leaves your organization, you remove them from your identity source like Google Workspace, and the person automatically lose access to AWS.
can also mention like as if there is no external identity provider and you for example do your own sandbox environments, maybe you can still use Identity Center by using SSO, like as Identity Center, as an identity provider itself. Yes, you will get some static user there with a static password, but you can attach a 2FA to that user, and you can rotate one single password, and so it's a bit simpler.
So it's much better, and it's built for more for advanced cases, right? So when you have multiple accounts, when you have a big organization, when people come and go, so onboarding and offboarding, it's an important topic here. Because when person leaves your company, maybe you fire them American way. Just give them a box without notice and say, like, don't see you again. Thank you for working here. And then the person might be upset of that happening. And if you haven't closed the door behind that person properly, they might still have access. And the work cases, if you listen the podcast as like Darknet Diaries, there were a couple of stories where there was the disgruntled employees who just hit back on the employer because employer wasn't diligent.
Guys, the clock is ticking. I think
Well,
we're having a very nice,
does.
yeah. Maybe
However,
let's wrap up. Maybe final
No.
words from each of us.
No.
No,
No.
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 Oh, why
No.
not, man? Why not?
We just
Come on.
keep going because there's no more things to be said.
Okay,
Right.
so tell.
So AWS SSO, or like Identity Center. I keep telling it as AWS SSO. Keep calling it AWS SSO. Sorry me for that. Excuse me for that. And the thing is, you still have a problem. Yes, you shifted away from the static credentials to the dynamic credentials that are time bound, but you still need to give a role to the person, right? So it's like the duration of access, but it's also the access scoping itself that's a problem. Because, right, those permissions assignments that you give to the people, those roles they can get through SSO in the current implementation of AWS Identity Center is static. So if you gave person the access to production like admin role, it stays there. And there is still a possibility for exploitation. We kind of discovered that as soon as the AWS SO was released, it was a couple of years ago. And back then, we were not satisfied with that. So that's why we built the solution, like the open source solution. Now AWS actually released their own solution, and there are integrations from the AWS partners that kind of do that, the same thing. I'm talking about like this Terraform model, SSO elevator that we have in a Terraform registry, and there is also a link to the GitHub. Vlad, if you have a chance, can you drop the link to the comments so the people can find it later on? So
Okay.
what's happening here, if you navigate to the GitHub repository, you will have the scheme there, but you basically use Slack and you say, I want access to production for 8 hours, you write a reason, and then you configure the people who can approve that. Those people will get a request in Slack, and then when they approve it, then that person who requested that their AWS IAM identity will receive permission set attached to it for a requested duration of time. So that then the person can go and do whatever they need in production. And there is a Lambda and event branch rules that would track the time, and then the time goes up. It will revoke that permission. The person will lose access to production. And that actually removes the pressure from scoping your production roles as tight as possible, because you can go from people having permanent but tightly controlled access to production to no one having access to production at all and only getting permanent access to production for a very short duration of time with maybe more elevated rights if you like, but basically you reduce your risks significantly and you simplify your AWS game here, because you don't actually need now so tightly scoped permissions. It's good to have them, obviously, but you are not in rush to make that happen since it's not permanent assignment and it's only for a short permission of time. So like the opportunity window is very short.
We can add an important moment, usually how permissions grow. For example, you have a user, you have roles or whatever, you assign a role to a user, so you granted permissions, like access to database, for example. When that user needs the next thing, access to, I don't know, EC2 instances, when the next thing, access to S3 bucket. But usually people never revoke the previous one. Maybe the previous part of the job is already done, like as we already did the thing with the RDSs and it's not required anymore. But no, it was approved with permissions. It was approved, so they permanently stick to a user, to a person.
Or to the role.
Another angle, we are talking about security. Of course, we have to protect our resources, but another angle is the compliance part, right? When you grant access to a resource, it must be temporary and it must be revoked after some time, right? Especially production environments. This is what the SSO elevator helps you to be aligned with the compliance stuff.
Yeah, it also writes audit log to S3, so you could incorporate that into your security lake or what have you. Another thing here that I wanted to mention is that I will be talking about that on AWS Summit in Amsterdam. So we're gonna Yeah, so that's the topics that they choose. I submitted a couple of topics, so they wanted to hear more about this. And as Guilherme mentioned, we need to wrap up. Time is ticking. So we will not spend as much time talking about this one today, but if you would like to know more, you can meet me at the AWS Summit. And I think Elsa, our colleagues will be talking, if the talk is approved, our colleagues will be talking more about just-in-time access, it's called. So you can Google AWS just-in-time access and AWS Team solution if you don't like what we got. So there are multiple options to
And
implement it, but it's a really good
you know,
practice to incorporate.
Andrey, we can mention that our solution is fully open sourced, even with
Yes.
a code base. So you can just get it and do your own. You doesn't like Terraform, okay, well, do whatever you want. So just use it as for inspiration.
Yeah, exactly. Or send us a pull request to fix it. We constantly fixing it and adding the new features as the customer requests them. So especially like for the smaller teams, like the startups, it's a way for you to elevate your security game significantly, spending nothing. And usually all the security solutions cost you dear. I mean, they're expensive. All the security stuff is expensive when you purchase them. And like the small team just might have not enough money, time to implement those. And this is like a stopgap solution for you. Before you get bigger, you get more budgets, you have people focused on security. And I mean, we work with startups and we kind of know their needs, and that's why we build solutions we build. This solution might not work very well for the huge enterprise where you need to manage like thousands of people, but like those people will have more money to buy more specialized solution from one of the AWS partners. But if you're a small team, if you're a startup or scale up, that's a good stuff for you.
Yeah, and if you implement this tiny SSO elevator model, you will surprise your auditors because you will have that one for nearby no cost and some small effort to implement.
Yeah, all the auditors who audited our customers who implemented the SSO elevator, they were like really impressed.
Time is up.
It's up to us, but I'm tired of talking.
Yeah, I think we can wrap up. So takeaways: Andrey will be in Amsterdam, AWS Summit in the community lounge. If you want to meet him there and bring him some stroopwafels and some delicious Dutch food, I think he's going to be super excited about it. I don't know if you know it, but the Dutch cuisine is very unique. You have to taste it. It's a joke. The takeaway SSO elevator, take a look at our GitHub repository. There's a video there, right, with a small demo that you can see things in action. Yeah, super nice to see, especially the integration with Slack. And we talked about AWS System Manager Parameter Store, a lot of small details there, and the cross account sharing feature. So take a look, and if you have any questions or any comments about this video, please just send a comment or reach us out on LinkedIn. And I just want to say thank you for your time. Andrey, your final words?
If you watched all the video till the end, reach out and I will personally thank you.
Yes, you're a winner.
I will send you a postcard or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, but if someone is really need help with the SSO elevator, if have, for example, no time and no capacity, and I guess we can implement it. So it's not that hard to do. We did it many times. So
important thing, there was already issues asking for the Microsoft Teams support. We don't have any customers using Terraform, Microsoft Teams. So there are no short-term plans to do that, and probably even middle-term plans to do that, because we usually like build for the use case. We don't build for the
but if someone comes to us and if you have a Teams, let's do it together. So if you could help us with the Teams part, So you can do it together. It's open source project. So why not?
Yeah. All right.
Thanks, guys. See you next
Thank you
time.
for your time. Yeah.
Hey,
Bye.
bye bye.